So I've decided to read the first chapter of my novel, SISSY. And excuse the voice, I'm a bit croaky. And the glasses, which are going to make me look like a complete wank puffin. Chapter 1, SISSY. You heard me, you dumb fucking cunt. We don't pay for our drinks. The angry young man standing at the counter sneered at the lean, dark-haired woman behind it, hands planted palm down as he raised his gaze to stare past her. Ain't that right, Yusuf? Eyes wide in his face, his cheeks wobbling as he tried unsuccessfully to smile. The elderly Greek owner of the Tin Spoon Cafe nodded back at the youth from where he was stood halfway to the kitchen, a steaming cup of tea clasped in one hand, a plate with a bacon sandwich on in the other. Yes, Dominic, of course, as you say. The youth grinned, turned to throw the two youths at his side a wink, then turned back to the woman behind the counter, addressing Yusuf as he spoke. Then you best tell this skinny bitch, because he tries to charge me again for drinks in here, I'll cut her fucking face off. Why don't you leave her alone? The voice suggested from the other side of the cafe, and as one, 5 pairs of eyes turned to settle upon its only customer. Throwing his two friends a lopsided smile, the angry youth named Dominic stepped towards the table where the middle-aged man sat, a newspaper on the surface before him. You say something? The stranger didn't look up, but his thick London accent marked him as a local, although Dominic, who had grown up in the area, had never seen him before. I said, why don't you leave her alone? You want some trouble, you old cunt? No. The man sounded beaten and well-weary, his expression almost pained as he turned to meet Dominic's gaze, his mouth twisting into a sad smile amid his thick black beard streaked with silver. No, I don't want any trouble. Fucking right you don't want any trouble. The youth turned to grin at his pair of laughing companions, then turned back to the man at the table as the man at the table spoke again. Neither does Yusuf or the girl. No one does. There was a heavy silence as the youth considered the older man's words. Then, what's your fucking point? My point is, why don't you give him a break? Or what? The man blinked, head shaking. Or nothing. Nothing? Dominic laughed, then took another step closer. You want to fight me, you old cunt? Fight you? The middle-aged man gave a humorless chuckle, his eyes drifting over the pair of black youths that flanked Dominic, both larger than the arrogant young man, before meeting his gaze again. No, I'm not going to fight you, son. I'm 45. Then mind your fucking tongue before I cut it out and make you eat it. Dominic leaned closer, his voice a snarl as he glared angrily at the sides of the stranger's head, as the man returned to reading his paper, apparently thinking that the conversation was over. At his words, the man turned back towards him, hands folding the paper up before pushing it away. Then, with a wary, almost reluctant sigh, he stood up, stepped out from the table booth, and despite himself, Dominic took a quick step backwards, away from him. His right hand reached in the pocket of his red Harrington jacket that he wore, his fingers curling about the handle of the switchblade he carried. The man was not tall, standing perhaps no higher than 5'8", but he seemed impossibly broad of shoulder to the stick-thin Dominic. The look in the man's grey eyes emotionless as he met his gaze. I don't want to fight you, son. Walk away. Heart hammering his chest, Dominic licked at his suddenly dry lips, his throat feeling like it was constricting. A sudden fear of the man washed over him, that irrational fear spiking into pure hatred and anger. Why was he scared of this old prick? You going to let him disrespect you like that, Dom? Leon, the youth to his left, chuckled in his ear. Yeah, go on. Five-ball to his right gave a snort of amusement. Wet that fat cunt up. Go on, cut him. Dominic tensed, feeling suddenly giddy, the urging comments of his friends and the protests from old Yusuf and the bitch behind the counter roaring in his ears like pressure. And all the while the man stood in silence, that sad, resigned look on his bearded face, until he cocked his head to one side, the corner of his mouth twitching into a smile. You don't want to do this. I don't, Dominic smiled, dragging the weapon from his pocket, a press of his thumb sending the blade punching out from the handle. I'm going to fuck you up. The faint jingle of the bell above the cafe door snatched at the youth's attention, and he half turned, staring at the well-dressed middle-aged man that was standing just beside it, flanked by two large men dressed in black bomber jackets and dark jeans. For what seemed an eternity, the gangland boss stared back coldly at his only son, his top lip curling as if fighting to control his temper. And then he turned to smile at the man that Dominic had been about to stab, his voice filled with emotion. Well, as I live and breathe, Jack Stone. There you go. That's Jack and Ori done for the evening. If you haven't read it and you've got no taste in books, check it out. It's pretty brutal and it's filled with Cockney accents, and not like my Mockney accent, like real Cockney accents, and a lot of gratuitous shittery and foul language and violence and sex and all the good things. But yeah, thank you for listening.